Hi everyone, we're here at KEXP, which is a globally recognized independent radio station. My name's Annie Warman. I am a content and editorial manager at Tableau, and I'm here with Larry Rose, who's a DJ and also a BI analyst here at KEXP, which is a really cool and unique combination.
Hello Annie, thank you.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am KEXP's business intelligence analyst. KEXP's mission is to enrich your life by championing music and discovery. We started in 1972 as KCMU at University of Washington, became KEXP in 2001, moved to our new home here at Seattle Center in 2015. And I work on all kinds of different data here at KEXP.
Yeah, that's great. So can you tell us a little bit about the evolution of how you've used data here? I mean, you've been here for 25 years,
25 years,
which
yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah,
so just the evolution of technology and Can
Sure.
you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started in 1994, we were a college radio station on campus, and back then we didn't have the internet. So the DJs, when they played songs, we had to write all of them down. And I found an old sheet that we used to write down those songs back in the 90s. And then in 2001, I was a software developer, and I developed a online playlist. It was one of the first in the country where you could actually see the songs being played online. And so DJs started entering the data that way. Back then it was all manual, where the DJs would enter songs just typing them in. And then we moved to a system where it would read from CD players. So when the DJs played CDs, they would send that music to our playlist. A few years ago, we went to a digital system where DJs can drag and drop songs, and the data has gotten better and better and cleaner over the years. We used to have cleanup parties where we would clean up the data. Yeah, because it was every DJ would enter songs a little bit differently, or albums, so we would want the data to be as consistent as possible, and that's how it's evolved over the years.
So the DJs were the ones cleaning up the data? You'd come together?
We actually had employees. We had these cleanup parties where people would come in and clean up the data.
That's awesome.
And yeah, but there's still, we gave you guys 18 years of data, and looking at the older data, it's definitely not as clean as the newer.
So what Steve's mentioning is we actually did an internal visualization contest at Tableau with KEXP data, which we'll talk about a little bit, show you guys some of those visualizations. But yeah, it was really interesting to see the evolution in that data of various artists and how that kind of was translated into maybe singles that you guys released. So there's some really cool stories about that.
Really cool, yeah. I'm so excited that you guys did this.
Yeah, we're really excited too. And we're going to talk to Morgan, who's another DJ, and talk about a little bit of that history, because there's some really cool nuggets in that data set. And as you can see, we're in this amazing library where they actually have all these CDs, and you guys come and pull these, right?
We do,
to play music from
them? Yeah, I think over time, we have a vinyl library here as well, and that was back in the early days of the station. We played a lot of vinyl, and then we moved to CDs, and now it's becoming more and more digital.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about KEXP is all the DJs choose their own music. So a good chunk of our time before our shows is preparing by pulling CDs and putting together our shows.
What do you think is the most pulled CD that you come in here for?
That I do personally?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's a hard question.
It's funny because I play a lot. I play mostly digital now, so I don't pull a lot of CDs. But I don't know. I play Deer Hunter a lot.
Which we'll find in that data set, by the way. We're going to look at his most played artists. There's a little fun story about Beck that we're going to talk about.
That's right.
But yeah, if you're ever in Seattle Center by the Space Needle, there's this really cool window where you can look into their vinyl library, which is right around that corner.
There's vinyl from the 70s in that library.
That's so cool. Yeah, and the whole station here is an amazing testament to Seattle music history. So really excited to talk to everyone today. I'm going to throw it over to my colleague Andrew, who's going to talk to the winner of that Viz contest, and we're going to talk about some of those insights I was saying earlier. And then we're going to talk to Morgan and Larry. So we'll throw it over to Andrew. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Annie. Hi, I'm Andrew Ganacher, and we're here in one of the DJ studio booths at KEXP. as mentioned before, we kicked off an internal viz contest using 18 years of KEXP data, and we have one of our winners here today, Ria. Ria, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ria. I am a contract manager over on Tableau's legal team over here in Seattle, and I'm very excited to be here today.
Nice. So I think the first thing that jumps out at me is you're on the legal team and we're talking about data visualizations.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about how those two kind of came together?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because they don't really sound well together, but how it all started, my director actually asked me to analyze some of their data, analyze some of the legal team's data, and build out a viz. And so she sent me Tableau's e-learning. And this was actually about 2 weeks into the job. I'm fairly new to Tableau, the company, and the application. So I've been here for about 4 months, and that's how it all started.
So you've only been using it for 4 months. It's pretty amazing that you've built this viz.
Thank you.
When you were building it and kind of going through the visualization and the data, what were some of the insights that you found when you were kind of working with KEXP data?
Yeah, so it was really cool because it was 18 years of playlist data. So there's a lot to look at, and there's a ton of insights that I found. I think probably two that really stuck out to me was the most frequently played artists versus the artists that were on air the longest weren't actually kind of the same. And except for Radiohead, that was top most played, top airtime. And then the second and third place was Beck and Pixies for most played.
Mm-hmm.
And then for airtime, it was LCD Sound System and Built to Spill. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's like, they're not exactly the same, and then the second one was the Radiohead data, and because they're most played, most airtime, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that and see, is there a specific time, day of the week, month that they really play it? And there actually was. It was pretty cool that you don't really hear Radiohead on Sundays or Saturdays over from KEXP, or between 8 and 9 p.m. So I thought that was, the Radiohead data was kind of cool too.
Yeah, nice. And then there's a ton of data in here. Mm-hmm. There's 18 years of playlist data. Were there any like features or kind of tips or tricks that you kind of use to kind of build out the visualization in Tableau? Yeah,
so Tableau just came out with, on their 2019.3 update was something called Explain Data, and that really helped me a lot. I would see spikes in my data and be like, what is this? And then I would just hit Explain Data and then realize that a guest DJ kept something on for 3 days straight, and then so I was able to take that out. So I thought that was a really cool feature. It really helped out a lot building out this viz. Yeah, it was great. Cool.
Well, thanks for submitting your viz.
Yeah,
obviously,
we
really enjoyed it. The KEXP staff really enjoyed it. There's a ton to dig into. We'll definitely have that available for people to take a look at themselves as well. So we're going to kick it back over to Annie and Larry, and they're going to be joined by Morgan, and they're going to dive into some of the data and kind of have a little bit of a panel and kind of go into some more topics.
Thanks, Andrew. We're here in the mastering suite now at KEXP, and we're Larry again, and now Morgan, who also works at KEXP and has a rich history here. First things first, let's start off with a little introduction. Can you tell us a little about your experience at KEXP?
Yeah, so I've been at KEXP for 11 years. I started in 2008 as an intern, like most of us do here at KEXP. I came from the University of Washington, where KEXP used to be KCMU. Once KCMU left and became KEXP, University of Washington formed a student club radio station, online only, called Rainy Dog Radio. So I was a DJ there during my time. I was also the general manager of that station. So during my time as general manager, I got to come have a meeting with KEXP's programming staff. And it was just a very natural fit for me to come over here and start interning as soon as I graduated from the University of Washington. So started as an intern in 2008, did a lot of DJ assisting, did a lot of things for the programming department in general. And then in 2012, I got my own show as an overnight host. And that's where Larry and I sort of intersected at first. He's Tuesdays 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. and I was Wednesdays 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. So we were back to back for my first year on air. And then I became the Saturday noon to 3 host. So I've been on that spot for about 7 years now. And then about 3 years ago, I got hired full time. So doing kind of what I was doing at the other station. So now I'm the DJ manager here. I'm also assistant to the program director, who's John Richards, our morning show host. So he and I guide the on-air staff here at KEXP. So now I'm sort of Larry's boss as a DJ. So very glad to be here full time and happy to be here with you today.
Great, and it's really fun that you guys have this history together of doing nights. What was that like, doing nights? Is that lots of coffee?
I actually still do it. Yeah. I mean, it's a different energy than during the day, and there's a little bit more freedom to but it's a lot of fun, and it was also fun when Morgan came in after me.
Yeah, it was always a party.
Yeah, it was a big party, yes.
So kind of speaking about freedom, we talked about this human creation element. Part of KEXP's mission is to craft these really unique experiences and have these diverse hosts with different music. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how that relates to using data or using playlist history to craft things, and how do you achieve that balance?
Sure. Oh, I think one of the cool things about KEXP is the DJs can choose whatever music they want to play, and sometimes we'll just get an idea, and maybe it'll be a full moon and we'll want to play songs about the moon. And one cool thing now is that we have so much data to work from. I can do a search for moon and find moon songs, and I get a ton of songs to choose from. So that's one idea that how we use data.
That's great.
But yeah, we use data all the time, and it really helps curate our shows.
Yeah, and the solar eclipse recently.
Right, that's right.
The moon songs.
I think we did an
Black
entire
hole
day.
sun,
Yeah.
total eclipse of the heart. TV on the radio staring at the sun because you shouldn't stare at eclipses. So yeah, it's really nice to have all of our CD library especially digitized. So now literally we can type in a keyword and everything that's in our library, where we used to have to physically look everything up. And obviously the DJs being huge music fans, we have a vast music knowledge still, but these tools really help us do our job even better and help us discover new things that we didn't know about before, because the library is so huge. Like how can you as one human know all of it? So now these like keyword searches are super helpful for that. Yeah.
Another thing we do is we pull lists of most played songs, most played albums during a period. So it could be all time, it could be the last decade, it could be last year. And so we do these countdowns on a regular basis, which is really fun because just to see what shows up in those results.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you kind of a unique experience for your listeners too, because you can craft these more tailored things that you wouldn't have to rely on memory as much. That's really cool. Well, there's so many insights that we found, like we talked to Rhea about recently in these visualizations. This data set you guys gave us was incredibly rich and had some really unique things about various artists and playlist history and top artists. And first things first, could we talk about your guys' favorite artists and maybe what you saw in that data set? Did your artist taste change over time, or was there anything that surprised you about your own play?
I am honestly not surprised at all by what the data visualizations came back with. So for example, KEXP in general, our #1 played band, is my favorite band of all time, and that's Radiohead. And like Larry was saying, when we do the listener countdowns where listeners are actually voting for their favorite albums, a lot of times those top played bands are ending up in the #1 positions. Like Radiohead just topped our listeners' favorite albums of all time. So OK Computer was the #1 album. So it's really reflective of what our community likes to listen to and also what the DJs are playing at the same time. So it really is a community effort what these playlists are coming back with. But it's also really interesting to see how genre popularity has changed over time too.
No, exactly. Yeah. One thing about that is looking at like the top songs of every year, going way back to 2001. In the early days, we had a lot more kind of indie bands like The Strokes, Built to Spill, The Shins, Death Cab. And when you look in the past few years, it's more, Janelle Monáe, Childish Gambino,
Lizzo,
more R&B. Yeah, Lizzo's our #1 most played song this year. So it's interesting to see how tastes have changed just genre-wise. That's
and
cool.
One thing that was really cool about this data set is there was a local tag. So you could sort by what were Seattle artists and how that was differentiated from non-Seattle artists and how the playtime differed. And That was really interesting.
Yeah,
as well.
and we actually, as DJs, we try to play at least one local artist an hour. So we're trying to work in local music. We have a show dedicated to local music called Audio Oasis. So yeah, that's really important.
Yeah,
to us.
that's really great. So in terms of like some trends you've seen over time, there was this viz that came through a visualization contest that was around play history when an artist had passed away, and maybe how that influenced how many times you play a song or when you play a song. But there are some interesting things that maybe the person who built the visualization didn't know. That was kind of a context thing, and we talked about David Bowie. Can you share that story?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when David Bowie released what ended up being his final album, Black Star, he released it on his birthday that year. And so we decided just randomly, not randomly, but he's a very important artist to us, but it wasn't spurred on by anything in particular. We decided to have this day called Intergalactic Bowie Day, which was on January 8th, which was his birthday. And so we played Bowie all day long. We celebrated the release of his album. We celebrated his birthday on that day. That's why we specifically chose that day to do that. And then on Sunday night, 2 days later, he passed away. Yeah. So then I wake up I woke up on Monday morning. Right. I always check my email first thing, and it was like, Bowie died. I'm like, oh my God. So I turned on KEXP, and we had to do a Bowie Day all over again 2 days later. So we did all day on Friday, and then on Monday we did it all over again. And that's the freedom that we have here, being super independent, being music lovers. We can change on a dime. Commercial stations can't do that. Like when Prince died, commercial stations started responding several hours later or even the next day, but we can change immediately. So like Prince passed away, and John saw it on the news, announced it on the changeover with Cheryl, and immediately we flipped our programming. So we have that power. But one thing on that particular viz that I thought was really interesting. So yes, you see the spikes when artists pass away, but then there was but sometimes that doesn't happen. And like you said, it's context. So there was one in particular that was Charles Bradley, and there wasn't a spike on the day that he died. And I was like, why wouldn't that have been? And I remembered, and Larry and I remembered that was it was our fundraising drive. And we had a countdown, so we were sticking to the countdown. So I did play Charles Bradley, but we didn't play it all day. So then a couple weeks later, it was his birthday, and that's when you saw the spike, was when we did a whole dedication, and we made this whole pre-produced program dedicated to him. So
interesting.
Yeah. So context.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love, you were saying this, you can kind of switch on the dime when things like that happen, but maybe that's also why people kind of come to KEXP when these happens. And I was talking to someone earlier about when an artist died, and I think people had come together in Seattle Center, and like KEXP was there. So it feels very like a local family, in addition to being kind of this global family that you have.
That's definitely true.
That's really great. So I'd kind of like to talk about your personal data, so to speak. You said your favorite artist was Radiohead. I'd love to hear some more stories. Do you guys have any anecdotes of maybe some favorite sessions, in studio sessions that you had, or is there any moment in this 25 years or these long times you've been here that in particular stood out as something that has been pretty inspiring or fun?
One in studio I'll speak to is I had Young Fathers, the band Young Fathers I think it was their first session here at KEXP, and it was just so powerful. It was just incredibly a powerful session, and I was blown away. And then also Kamasi Washington, I did that in studio a few years ago, and he was amazing. So it's just some of the in studios that we have here are just mind blowing.
And your studio space is so cool too, because you have that little gathering space that people can watch, and then people can obviously watch on YouTube as well. So I bet that was really cool. Awesome.
Yeah, the one that I think of right away, we were talking about Lizzo earlier, how Juice is our most played song this year. I had Lizzo in back in 2016.
That's right.
That was the first time she ever came and played in Seattle. That was before her record that came out this year obviously came out, before she blew up. and people didn't really know her. She was starting to come up. She only had this EP that had just come out, but she had worked with Prince right before he passed away on the Third Eye album.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not really knowing her yet, but knowing that there was a lot of buzz around her and she was coming up. So being in the studio there, and she had her backup dancers just like she does in a live performance. She had them in the studio. So it's kind of funny because when you're listening to it on the radio while it's live, you can't see these dancers. But
Right.
I'm trying to explain, like, when the video comes out, you're going to see that she has these dancers and it's amazing. And now that's something that's really iconic with her live performances and people know and expect when they see her. So it's really awesome that KEXP can take chances on these artists that sometimes end up blowing up and becoming internationally famous, juxtaposed with your local band who lives down the street. And they all get treated the same way, and the production quality is always the same for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, and you all get this opportunity to have this amazing portfolio piece and be heard by thousands of people. So
that's pretty incredible. And we were talking about Vampire Weekend. There's these gold records in the library where we just were.
Yeah.
Because you guys were one of the first stations to
That's
play
right.
them.
We're the first.
They sent us
Fun
a
fact.
demo. I think it was in 2006 before the first album came out, and we played it a lot, and they sent us their gold records when.
That's awesome.
Afterward.
Well, yeah, you guys have so many amazing stories, and I wish we could sit here and
There's
talk
one-
to them for hours.
There's one involving Kurt Cobain, by the way.
Oh,
from way back.
we might have
way
to
back.
next
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe in the blog post after
Yeah,
this,
okay.
we'll put that.
Sure.
So I think we have to wrap up today. We're running out of time, but I really wish I could sit here and talk to you guys for hours because you have so many amazing stories.
And the visualizations were so cool.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And I just want to play around with them for hours.
Well, and you guys can play around with them. We'll put a link to all of those visualizations, and we'll do a blog post with a roundup of all of those so you can see what we were talking about and play with them yourself, and maybe tag them on Twitter and ask if you find any insights what the context is, because there's probably a story there. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This was really, really fun, and we're really excited to be able to do stuff like this with you guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Signing off from Seattle at KEXP.